The Helmand region was almost isolated by both the border and by a lack of roads for another 20 years. The institution of agricultural cooperatives brought about economic decline. Many Helmandi people fled, and some were executed trying to cross the border. Enver Hoxha served as Prime Minister and First Secretary of the Party of Labour of Albania. In the aftermath of World War II and the defeat of the Axis powers, the country became initially a satellite state of the Soviet Union, and Enver Hoxha emerged as the leader of the newly established People's Republic of Albania. 97 Soviet-Albanian relations began to deteriorate after Stalin's death in 1953. At this point, the country started to develop foreign relations with other communist countries, among others with the People's Republic of China. During this period, the country experienced an increasing industrialization and urbanization, a rapid collectivization and economic growth which led to a higher standard of living. The government called for the development of infrastructure and most notably the introduction of a railway system that completely revamped transportation. The new land reform laws were passed granting ownership of the land to the workers and peasants who tilled it. Agriculture became cooperative, and production increased significantly, leading to the country becoming agriculturally self-sufficient. In the field of education, illiteracy was eliminated among the country's adult population. The government also oversaw the emancipation of women and the expansion of healthcare and education throughout the country. The average annual increase in the country's national income was 29 and 56 higher than the world and European average, respectively. The nation incurred large debts initially with Yugoslavia until 1948, then the Soviet Union until 1961 and China from the middle of the 1950s. The constitution of the communist regime did not allow taxes on individuals. Instead, taxes were imposed on cooperatives and other organizations, with much the same effect. A bunker overlooking the Albanian Alps. By 1983, approximately 173,371 concrete bunkers were scattered across the country. Today, a secular state without any official religion, religious freedoms and practices were severely curtailed during the communist era, with all forms of worship being outlawed. In 1945, the agrarian reform law meant that large swaths of property owned by religious groups were nationalized, mostly the waqfs along with the estates of mosques, teques, monasteries and dioceses. Many believers, along with the ulama and many priests, were arrested and executed. In 1949, a new decree on religious communities required that all their activities be sanctioned by the state alone. After hundreds of mosques and dozens of Islamic libraries containing priceless manuscripts were destroyed, Hoxha proclaimed Albania the world's first atheist state in 1967. The churches had not been spared either, and many were converted into cultural centers for young people. A 1967 law banned all fascist, religious, and anti-socialist activity and propaganda. Preaching religion carried a 3 to 10-year prison sentence. Nonetheless, many Albanians continued to practice their beliefs secretly. The anti-religious policy of Hoxha attained its most fundamental legal and political expression a decade later. The state recognizes no religion, states the 1976 Constitution, and supports and carries out atheistic propaganda in order to implant a scientific materialistic world outlook in people. In 1988, the first foreigners were allowed to walk into the car-free Skanderbeg Square in Tirana. After 40 years of communism and isolation as well as the revolutions of 1989, people, most notably students, became politically active and campaigned against the government that led to the transformation of the existing order. Following the popular support in the first multi-party elections of 1991, the Communists retained a stronghold in the parliament until the victory in the general elections of 1992 led by the Democratic Party. Considerable economic and financial resources were devoted to pyramid schemes that were widely supported by the government. The schemes swept up somewhere between 1/6 and 1/3 of the population of the country. Despite the warnings of the International Monetary Fund, Salih Berisha defended the schemes as large investment firms, leading more people to redirect their remittances and sell their homes and cattle for cash to deposit in the schemes. The schemes began to collapse in late 1996, leading many of the investors to join initially peaceful protests against the government, requesting their money back. The protests turned violent in February 1997 as government forces responded by firing on the demonstrators. In March, the police and Republican Guard deserted, leaving their armories open. These were promptly emptied by militias and criminal gangs. The resulting civil war caused a wave of evacuations of foreign nationals and refugees. The crisis led both Alexander Mexi and Sali Berisha to resign from office in the wake of the general election. In April 1997, Operation Alba, a UN peacekeeping force led by Italy, entered the country with two goals exclusively: to assist with the evacuation of expatriates and to secure the ground for international organizations. The main international organization that was involved was the Western European Union's multinational Albanian police element, which worked with the government to restructure the judicial system and simultaneously the Albanian police. The earthquake of November 2019 was the strongest to hit Albania in more than 4 decades. 112 Following the disintegration of the communist system, Albania focused on an active process of westernization with the goal of accession to the European Union (EU) and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization (NATO). In 2009, the country, together with Croatia, gained active membership in NATO, becoming among the first countries in Southeast Europe to do so. It also applied to join the European Union on April 28, 2009, receiving official candidate status on June 24, 2014. Edi Rama of the Socialist Party won both the 2013 and 2017 parliamentary elections. As Prime Minister, he implemented numerous reforms focused on modernizing the economy, as well as democratizing state institutions, including the country's judiciary and law enforcement. Unemployment has been steadily reduced, with Albania achieving the 4th lowest unemployment rate in the Balkans. Rama has also placed gender equality at the center of his agenda since 2017. Almost 50 of the ministers are female, the largest number of women serving in the country's history. On November 26, 2019, a 6.4 magnitude earthquake ravaged Albania with the epicenter positioned 16 kilometers 10 miles southwest of the town of Marmaris. The tremor was felt in Tirana and in places as far away as Taranto, Italy, and Belgrade, Serbia, while the most affected areas were the coastal city of Durrës and the village of Shkodër. Response to the earthquake included substantial humanitarian aid from the Albanian diaspora and several countries around the world. On March 9, 2020, COVID-19 was confirmed to have spread to Albania. From March to June 2020, the government declared a state of emergency as a measure to limit the rapid spread of the pandemic in the country. The country's COVID-19 vaccination campaign started on January 11, 2021. However, as of August 11, 2021, the total number of vaccines administered so far in Albania amounts to 1,280,239 doses. During the 2021 parliamentary elections, the ruling Socialist Party led by Edi Rama secured its 3rd consecutive victory, winning nearly half of votes and enough seats in parliament to govern.